Welcome, gentle people. I'm Dr. Kelly Victory, and flying as solo host today, covering for Drew. He and Susan are off in Bordeaux drinking some fabulous red wine, no doubt, only for its medicinal and antioxidant properties. I'm quite certain, but they are off on holiday and will be back with us next week. So I am flying alone, although joined by one of my favorite people, again, a return guest for this show, Dr. James Thorp, who most of you know is an obstetrician gynecologist, a maternal fetal physician with remarkable credentials, and I'll give more of that before I come back. But we're going to be spending the time today talking about, once again, the issues surrounding the mRNA vaccines and specifically their impact, the rather profound impact on women and women's health, and most specifically on pregnancies and developing babies. Dr. Thorp is the perfect person to do that. And then if we have time at the end, we're going to talk a little bit just about really the impact of this entire pandemic and specifically the negativity that's gone on people's health overall. So really excited to have Dr. Thorp back here with us. If we have time, we're going to take some questions as well. Caleb is going to be fielding that since I am technologically challenged, can't figure out how one would actually answer a call on one of these platforms. This is Kelly Victory 1.0, if you haven't figured that out. So I'm lucky if I actually connect to these shows on a weekly basis. So I certainly don't understand the intricacies of all the different platforms. But if you'll bear with me, we will have what I have no doubt is going to be a really, really intense conversation with Dr. Jim Thorp, and we'll get into the weeds on the data and not just data. You know, we focus all the time on studies. Everyone wants to know what study we're looking at, which, randomized control study we're looking at, what's the data show. And believe me, I'm a physician. I count on those things too. And we've spent the better part of this entire pandemic really asking people to look at the veracity of the data that's coming out of scientific journals. But that is not to supplant the experience of people who are practicing physicians. What are we seeing in the office? What are people seeing in the hospital? What are people seeing in their own clinics? Those are the people, and I would suggest that it's people like Jim Thorp who are treating on a daily basis pregnant women or women hoping to become pregnant, or who are seeing things, and that should not fall by the wayside. It's really just as important, or should have just as much weight as what ultimately gets published in the journals, because it is very honest, it's very real, it's very timely, and these are the things that I think we should be acting upon. So let's get to some business we need to do first, and I will be back shortly with Dr. James Thorp.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. There are 3 steps to great-looking, glowing complexion in the summer. Of course, apply sunscreen, stay hydrated, and use the amazing skincare products from our friends at Genucel. Most retinol creams are not recommended for sunlight, but Genucel's Ultra Retinol uses a powerful plant extract retinol. It's an alternative called bakuchiol, which helps the skin stay hydrated, smooths out fine lines, without harsh side effects, and it is safe to use outside under your sunscreen. Genucel works so well, you can see the results in this unplanned live moment on our show when the Redness Repair Cream repaired my skin in just minutes right before your eyes. And Susan and I love Genucel so much, we created our affordable bundles at up to 72% off of our favorite products at genucel.com/Drew. And just for the summer, every subscription includes a customized summer spa gift box absolutely free.
I know I'm a snob about the products I use on my face. Everybody knows it. Every time I go to the dermatologist's office, they're just rows and rows of different creams. And then when I get to the counter, they're overpriced. All kinds of products that you can all find at genucel.com.
See what's in our bundles. Get ready to show off your summertime skin. Go to genucel.com/Drew. That's GENUCEL.com/DREW, genucel.com/Drew. And remember to use the code Drew at checkout for extra savings. I want to share with you a teeth whitening system that goes beyond merely enhancing your smile. Primal Life Organics Real White Teeth Whitening System offers convenience and rapid results without harsh chemicals. Light, blue light for whitening, red light for gum and oral hygiene, and you can just do both if you wish. Works naturally, promoting gum healing, tooth remineralization, gives you a brighter and a healthier smile. Again, no peroxide involved. Consistent usage yields remarkable results. Take this opportunity to transform your smile and at the same time, optimize your oral health. Aim for 5 times a week for the best outcomes. Discover more about this remarkable teeth whitening system and other products at drdrew.com/primal today. That again is drdrew.com/PRIMAL. Be sure to use that link for 60% off. drdrew.com/PRIMAL. Do it today for 60% off.
All right, welcome. As I said before, we are being joined today by Dr. James Thorp. Dr. Thorp is an obstetrician gynecologist and a maternal fetal medicine specialist for more than 40 years. He received his medical degree from Wayne State University and was serving on the SSM health system in St. Louis, Missouri, up until the point that he was fired from that hospital system and St. Mary's Hospital, fundamentally for telling the truth about the COVID-19 mRNA shots and their profoundly negative impact on women and their pregnancies. So he has, I frankly don't know anyone, I don't think, more passionate than Dr. Thorp with regard to women's health, their pregnancies. He is an absolute warrior in defending women and their unborn babies and their newborn babies. I'm very happy to learn that he has just been asked to join and has joined the Wellness Company as their chief of maternal and fetal health, and will be able to oversee women's health in that new position. So I want to hear all about what he's doing there, and as well as what brought him to that point. So, Dr. Thorp, great to see
Kelly.
you. Thanks so much.
It's great. Thank you so much for having me on your platform again. It's an honor and a privilege.
No, I appreciate it. You've got so much to share. And before, I normally start with the kind of, the more data-oriented stuff and then move into the softer items. But I want to actually give you a chance, if you would, for a minute. Tell people how it is that you're now at the Wellness Company, and I'm thrilled that includes other friends and colleagues of this program, including Peter McCullough and Harvey Reish and some other great scientific minds and truth warriors. But talk a little bit about, you are one of many, unfortunately, people who we both know who have had their professional careers upended. People with incredible pedigrees like yourself, incredibly well-trained, incredible experience, mountains. I can't even imagine how many thousands of high-risk patients you have seen and treated in your career, and how it is that you find yourself with a hospital system deciding that you do not belong there.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for the generous introduction. The first thing that I want to tell every citizen of the United States of America, really the globe, and especially all the patients under my former practice in Missouri and Illinois, who are under the care at SSM Health, Sisters of St. Mary's Health, based out of St. Louis. And this is an extremely important question. I want all of the patients to ask their nurses and doctors at this system one simple question, Dr. Kelly. Doctor or nurse, are you willing to lose your job, to sacrifice your job to save my life? Yes or no? Yes or no? That's a very, very important question because you're absolutely right. You know, the people of the United States of America, I mean, I hate to say this, but we are in a totalitarian dictatorship. This is not government by the people. It's not government for the people. This is government by mob rule, and
Right.
it's like a fascist regime. So when you have the majority of the country now who is voting with their feet and not taking the vaccine because they know there's a problem with it. Listen, that's no mystery. The people of the United States, the majority have spoken. They're not going forward with the vaccination.
Right.
And yet, what does the fascist government do? The dictators, they come down on the healthcare, the physicians. Just in the last month, you have two physicians, both myself and my highly esteemed colleague, Dr. Renata Moon, who is at the University of Washington State School of Medicine. Now, you know, I don't want to shame my SSM Health. I think it's probably a great healthcare system. And I will say this, that they treated me like royalty. And I'll tell you what, they loved me. The CEO called me up. It was on June 29th. It was a Thursday. It was 1:05 p.m. And I kind of knew what was coming. So I had an attorney take notes during the entire conversation. And his name was Mr. Kevin Elledge. And, he was a really, really honorable gentleman. And for the first 30 minutes, all he did was honor me, praise me, told me how much I was loved, how much it meant to everybody in the system that I cared for the staff, the patients, lauded me as having moral, ethical, intellectual integrity beyond, way above what he would expect and above most practitioners. And then he went on and described me as a model physician for the system. And after 30 minutes, he came on and said, we're going to fire you. He said, terminate you for no cause. Okay, no cause. And, you may work 100, we're invoking the no cause termination because you've been an incredible physician for our system, a model. And so you can work another 120 days, or you can take a large amount of money and sign this agreement, non-disparagement agreement. And I basically honored him and said, Mr. Elledge, I really don't need the money. If you guys are having difficulties, you keep it. Felt very, very pressured by him to take the money. And 3 times I said, no, you keep your money. And then 7 minutes after he hung up the phone, after he told me I could work for 120 days and I was a terrific physician, sent an email out to the entire system stating that I was immediately terminated, no longer doing clinical responsibilities, suggesting that I was a horrible person and I did something wrong. But the fact of the matter is that, that's fine. I'll let all the suit coats and the attorneys figure that out. I don't really care about it. I got patients to take care of and much bigger fish to fry than SSM Health. But the point that I'm making with SSM Health is that really I believe that what really happened, that they love me. I was told by many I was the number one producer by far and away in the department. So why would you Tucker Carlsonize me if I was the number one producer by far and away? I've seen 27,500 high-risk OB patients just in the last 4.5 years, way beyond what anybody else has done. I publish more than anybody else in the department, probably more than most of the department combined. So they did honor me, and they tried to do it in a way that honored me, but I don't think it was their decision. I think a third party came in, from DC or one of the boards and said, look, He's violating, he's spreading misinformation. If you want to continue to get your monies, you need to terminate him. And that's what they did. So, they're between a rock and a hard place. They could have done much worse. They could, like most hospitals do, they drum up false charges like they did with Dr. Rennie Moon. And then they execute her, terminate her, fire her for cause. They didn't do that to me. So, they honored me. So I'm grateful for that. But more importantly,
as you say, you are very gracious in the way that you have handled this, and you are very gracious in letting them off the hook. There's no question. I agree with you that they are folding to third-party pressure, and we are seeing this all around the country. The thing that is, I think people need to understand, Jim, is that just like we have as AB 2098 out here in California, the law that was passed by Newsom that fundamentally criminalizes a physician speaking against the narrative, if you say anything against the narrative. So while that is horrific for physicians, and what you have gone through is so unjust, so unfair, it's such an egregious affront to everything you have done. And as bad as that is, though, from the patient's perspective, this should be terrifying, because you need to ask yourself, think about the physicians who didn't get fired. Are they saying and doing what they are saying and doing because they honestly believe it's the right thing, or because they don't want to be Dr. James Thorp? Are they saying and doing it because they believe it's what the literature shows them, or it's because they don't want to be Dr. Renata Moon? Is it because they don't want to be in your shoes that they are doing and saying what they're doing for their patients? And this should be terrifying to people, because if you can't trust that your physician, and God bless you for standing up for what is right, people can trust you. And no matter what, every patient who you treated will know that what you told them, whatever it was, whatever the outcome, was because you honestly believed it was the right thing to do. You had their best interest in mind, not your best interest in mind. And I think that that is critically important. I think I cut you off when you were making a final point, so go ahead.
No, I made my point. I just wanted to say that, I, as a former United States Air Force officer, and as obviously sworn allegiance to uphold the Constitution, which includes freedom of speech, by the way, and also to uphold my Hippocratic oath to my patients, first do no harm, and also give informed consent. The Nuremberg Code has very, very specific 10 guidelines for informed consent. They're all violated. They're all violated by all the hospitals. You can't give informed consent when nobody is allowed to even investigate by federal law what's in those vials.
Right. No, really important point. And, when we come back after the break, I want to talk about actually some of the things you're seeing and the data and those sorts of things. But I want to talk also another thing that I think we frequently talk about, the first do no harm and informed consent. But many people, including the average physician, tragically, who's younger than we are, doesn't know the four pillars of medicine: autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. People don't know of those. We swore an oath to those pillars. And autonomy, which is tied hand in hand with informed consent, is the first of those pillars. And you're absolutely right. The idea, we have an entire country full of people who took these injections who did not get informed consent. That is a fact. If you ask any of them whether they were given options, all the things that are required for informed consent, which includes, what are my options? What is the likelihood of the outcome if I don't take this? What's in this injection? What is the risk from this injection? All of those things. How is it that all of medicine somehow turned a blind eye to the fundamental concept of autonomy and informed consent?
There's a very simple answer to that, Dr. Victory, and that's called a $13 billion bribe from our government in early 2021. And that bribe was designed by none other than Assistant Deputy Secretary Mark Weber of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, who, after he knew, and the CDC knew, and the FDA knew, and the HHS knew that the Pfizer rollout data of 10 weeks, it was the deadliest drug ever rolled out in the history of humanity. That's fact. I've been stating that for 2 years. Nobody can debate that. It's published. I've published it many times. What did they do? They tried to bury that, Dr. Victory, for 75 years. They turned around and gave $13 billion of our taxpayer money to bribe over 300 influencing organizations and individuals, to bribe them with a contract that if they signed it, they were not allowed to deviate from the narrative, from the deathly narrative. And Maggie and my wife have a FOIA that have proved that the American College of OBGYN entered as a founding member of the COVID-19 Community Core. They signed that agreement for over $11 million, probably much more. We have 1,400 pages, if you can believe that, 50% of which were redacted. 400 pages of the government capturing the American College of OBGYN. And I call that, I'm a student of the Bible and I'm a student of eschatology. What immediately the Holy Spirit brought into my head was Isaiah, which is all the major prophet of 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, and chapter 28, verses 15 through 18, where it talks about in the end time, the covenant with death. That's what I've called this contract, the covenant with death. And that's why these organizations still, to this very day, are pushing it as safe, effective, and necessary in the most vulnerable population of the world. My pregnant patients, preborns, and newborns get it too by proxy of vertical transmission.
Dr. Thorp, clarify for me, because is this $13 billion that you're talking about, is that separate and independent from monies that went through the CARES Act that were paid to hospital systems, or is this part that's separate from them? Okay.
Separate.
Because
so you're getting...
if people don't know, the CARES Act, which was set aside by President Trump, fundamentally to help doctors and hospitals during this pandemic, ended up incentivizing or rewarding people for putting the diagnosis of COVID on admissions. Part of the reason why we have everybody and their brother was admitted supposedly with COVID, even if it was actually a gunshot wound to the chest or a diabetic, insult or a heart attack or whatever else. If they put COVID on the admission, on the admitting diagnosis, they got a certain amount of money. And if they put COVID on the death certificate, they got, and these are huge sums of money. It was almost $40,000 per patient if the hospital was willing to say it was a COVID death. So the incentives were enormous. But so this $13 billion you're talking about is in addition to the bribes and incentives that went through the CARES Act.
Yeah, and Maggie and I have published this. This is, in fact, for those of you, I just started a new Substack. Just Google Thorp Substack. And the first 5-part series is called The Covenant of Death, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, and Part 5. Part 1 was published a couple of days ago. Read it. It'll blow your mind. It exposes everything.
Wow. All right. Well, let's take a quick break here for some commercials, and then we'll come back and start talking about actually what you're seeing in your clinical experience.
A lot of you have been asking for more information about how to counter the adverse effects of the spike protein from COVID infections and the COVID vaccine. The spike protein is not your friend, let's just say that. So I'm glad we have the wellness company Spike Support Formula as a sponsor, especially since renowned internist and cardiologist Dr. Peter McCullough, who's also chief scientific officer of the wellness company, is one of its champions. There's some very intriguing research around nattokinase, which might be a way to take on the spike protein. Listen to this.
So start, if you would, with talking about nattokinase, how you got to that and where you see its application.
So with the viral infection or the vaccines, the spike protein stays within the body, and it's found in the heart, the brain, the vital organs, and it's causing problems. The Japanese have been using this for heart and vascular disease now for 20 years. It's safe. It is a form of a mild blood thinner. that it dissolves the spike protein nearly completely.
Spike Support Formula is the only product on the market containing nattokinase, dandelion root, and a host of other antioxidants, all showing promise in helping you protect yourself and your family. To order this unique, specially formulated supplement, go to drdrew.com/TWC. That is drdrew.com/TWC. Use code DREW at checkout for 10% off today. President Trump recently issued a warning from his Mar-a-Lago home. Quote, "Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There are 3 reasons the central banks are dumping the U.S. dollar: inflation, deficit spending, and our insurmountable national debt. The fact is, there is one asset that has withstood famine, wars, political and economic upheaval dating back to biblical times: gold. And you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. That's right, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k, maybe from a previous employer, into an IRA in gold. And the best part, you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Just visit birchgold.com/Drew for your free info kit. They'll hold your hand through the entire process. Think about this. When currencies fail, gold is a safe haven. How much more time does the dollar have? Birch Gold has an A+ rating with Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. I do not give financial advice, and previous performance is no guarantee of future performance. Visit birchgold.com/Drew to get your free info kit on gold. That is birchgold.com/DREW. I suspect you've seen Susan and I gushing over Paleo Valley products. We love the taste and how well they fit into a paleo-based nutrition regimen. They're delicious, and we use them for travel all the time. But there's more. We are huge fans as well of Paleo Valley's grass-fed bone broth protein. It comes in 3 flavors: unflavored, vanilla, and chocolate. It's a powder you can add to really anything. We add it to coffee literally every day. Smoothies, baked dishes, just hot water dissolves really easily. The bone broth protein is made with 100% grass-fed and finished bones that are free from pesticides or antibiotics and are slow simmered to extract as much collagen as possible. As we age, collagen breaks down. That's what wrinkles are. And research shows that there are significant benefits to adding a collagen source in your diet. I don't think it's too much to say it's changed our lives. And Susan is now reporting that after drinking the bone broth for a few weeks, her hair is stronger and longer, and nails are stronger too. Try it for yourself. You can order at drdrew.com/Paleo Valley and use Dr. Drew at checkout to save an additional 15%. Some platforms have banned the discussion of controversial topics. If this episode ends here, the rest of the show is available at drdrew.tv.
There's nothing in medicine that doesn't boil down to a risk-benefit calculation. It is the mandate of public health to consider the impact of any particular mitigation scheme on the entire population. This is uncharted territory, Drew. Hey, for those of you who may just be jumping in here, we're joined today by Dr. James Thorp, who is a OBGYN and maternal fetal health expert. And we're going to start talking now about, if you would, some of the things I said in my open. Obviously, we rely very heavily on the data, on scientific studies, on what's in the journals. But I really want to talk for a minute about what you are seeing. You gave an unbelievable statistic. You've seen 27,500 high pregnancies over a period of the last 4 or 5 years, which is remarkable. So we're talking about numbers that really eclipse, frankly, any study that anyone's going to have published. You yourself have seen and laid hands on a remarkable number of people. So we're now about 2.5 years into this vaccine, quote unquote, I use that term loosely, this mRNA shot debacle, and that is what I consider it. And so I'd like you to spend a little bit of time talking about what you have seen, and I assume you also speak with colleagues who are in the business as well, the impact you're seeing on that you believe may be attributable to these shots from, on pregnant women, on their pregnancies, on their fertility.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Victory. So, yeah, there's no question that I've seen devastating effects that really I did not see in 2020. I didn't see these until after the rollout of the vaccine in 2021. And let's start with menstrual irregularities. And we published extensively on this, Tiffany Prado, Dr. Brian Hooker, and many others with the CHD network. And we published that last year, just devastating severe menstrual abnormalities, also substantial increases in infertility, both male and female infertility. Then in the pregnant women, just devastating complications. And this should surprise nobody, Dr. Kelly, because we know, I've known for 40 years, Dr. Roberto Romero, one of the stalwarts maternal fetal medicine in world history. He's 10 years further along than I am, but he established his whole career documenting the devastating effects of inflammation in pregnancy. So we should have known this alleged vaccine, this gene therapy masqueraded as a fake vaccine, is the most inflammatory substance known to man. I've stated that for 2 years. Nobody has debated me with it. Every woman that's got that shot knows that. Every man that's got that shot knows that. What does it do in pregnancy? It kills pregnancy. That's what Dr. Romero's studies show. That's what I've seen in clinical practice. I've seen a devastating increase in miscarriages. I've seen increase in fetal malformations. I think an increase in chromosomal abnormalities. I've seen a substantial increase in fetal death, severe early onset preeclampsia, preterm premature rupture of membranes, spontaneous preterm labor, indicated preterm delivery by the physicians having to deliver a baby for fear of demise for complications related to the vaccine. Significant increase in fetal growth restriction, fetal cardiac arrhythmias, fetal cardiac death, fetal cardiac arrest, placental clots, all types of devastating, remarkable features of abnormal placentation, and definitely increasing the risk of preterm delivery, and also increasing the risk of the newborn going to the neonatal intensive care unit. The NICUs have been overflowing since the vaccine started. And if that weren't bad enough, a neonatal death as a result of prematurity and other complications for the vaccine. And that's just for starters. Now, I want to tell your readers out there, the entire, what I call now MMIC, the military medical industrial complex, is totally captured all the journals. Throw away your journals. Use them for toilet paper. They're worthless. And I can prove that to you. You know, just this past month, Dr. McCulloch and many others published the definitive report in The Lancet documenting vaccine-induced death by autopsy in 325 patients. 73% of those were proven to be caused by the vaccine within 2 weeks. That was accepted, it was peer-reviewed, and Elsevier and Lancet immediately removed it. Listen, Kelly, Dr. Kelly, Retraction Watch has totally documented over 300 articles like that removed. We should have believed Dr. Marcia Engel 20 years ago, the former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, when she said, "I'm resigning. The New England Journal of Medicine and all of the other medical journals are corrupt. Throw them away." An article just published this week, 2 days ago, Rimmer and colleagues published an article, a meta-analysis in which they claim that 25 studies show that there's no increased risk of spontaneous abortion or miscarriage related to the vaccine. It's total, utter hogwash. And we have a letter to the editor in there because they didn't publish our peer-reviewed study, which was published in March in a preeminent peer-reviewed medical journal, the Journal of the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons. They didn't even include that. This was a massive study. We showed massive danger signals. Nobody cites that study because it's true. You cannot believe any of these journals. They're all captured and owned by pharmaceutical. And you know, the two major studies, which were 2020 in the spring, was a Lancet article first authored by Mandeep Mehra, Harvard cardiologist, that fraudulently, completely made up meta-analysis of hydroxychloroquine, impugning it. Everybody that read that study, including myself, knew it was fraudulent. It was probably ghostwritten by Pfizer and then handed to Manny Mera to publish. It was published in the Lancet. We knew it was BS. We called them out on it. And guess what? They retracted it. It was not fabricated. It was completely made up. This is a preeminent medical journal in the world. And then 1 year later, the New England Journal of Medicine, and I'm going to call out the name, Eric Rubin, who is the editor-in-chief, is so corrupt and so unethical and so immoral, just flush that journal down the toilet. None of these journals are responsible. They're all corrupted. They all have major entanglements with pharmaceutical companies. What did he do? Okay, editor-in-chief published the lead author pushing the vaccine and pregnancy in May or June of 2021 as being safe, effective, and necessary in pregnant women. And he knew it was a lie. He fabricated the numbers. All 21 authors were federal employees. And the lead author, Tommy T. Shimabukuro, who should be indicted and under criminal investigation, manipulated the data and by underhanded dealings, switched 700 patients who got their vaccine in the third trimester, fraudulently shifted them in the first trimester, which thus reduced the miscarriage rate from 82% to 13%. I've published that multiple times and peer-reviewed. That can never be redone. So these two journals are responsible for killing and injuring millions of my patients, killing and injuring millions of patients globally with a false narrative that the vaccine is safe, effective, and necessary in pregnancy.
You know, I'll tell you, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Drew and I talk a lot about the overwhelming impact and the ramifications of the capture of these journals. I've spoken at length on this show with Bobby Kennedy Jr. about that. He made an interesting statement that if he were elected president, he would haul all of the editors of the major medical journals in and essentially make it a RICO issue and say, if you do not rid the conflict of interest, this is racketeering by any other name, everybody really in medicine, and unfortunately I fear that young physicians do not understand that the medical journals are fundamentally the marketing arm of the pharmaceutical companies. That's all they are. There isn't anything in there that you can rely on at this point, and that's a very, very scary thing. I want to go back for a minute, though. You started by talking about inflammation and the fact that these shots are the most inflammatory substance we know. And I have said many, many, many times that we are having an epidemic right now of the itises. Whatever it is, tinnitus, myocarditis, pericarditis, neuritis. And if people don't know, itis at the end of a word is the fancy medical, suffix meaning inflammation. These are inflammatory processes that are happening as a result of the mRNA and the lipid nanoparticle complex. The lipid nanoparticles are also toxic by themselves, but the spike proteins that are produced because of the mRNA are highly, highly inflammatory, and that is not good for pregnancies for all the reasons you have just elucidated, all the things you're seeing. Dr. Ryan Cole actually showed us some slides in the past of the impact. Talk just about what you are seeing in terms of placental abnormalities. It's everything, as I understand, from that they are small for gestational age to issues with clots to issues with perhaps an autoimmune attack on the developing placenta. So talk a little bit just about the impact on the placenta.
The impact on the placenta is devastating, and I was happy to see with my Substack number 2 that was published. Might have been the first or the second one, but there was I don't know the lady or gentleman's name, but it was MFM sonographer with about 35 years of experience in the industry. I'm not sure where she practices, but she wrote in, and look what she wrote down. She wrote down everything, all the findings